I'll come back to the students a little bit later to sort of talk about your specialism and what you would like to do. But today, of course, we're here to talk about the award-winning Southampton Solent University Law Clinic. Can you sort of, Brad, tell us about the inception of the Law Clinic and what was your mission when you were thinking about this particular idea?
Yeah, so the university has wanted a law clinic for a while, and we're very fortunate that I have a really great relationship with John that's built over a number of years, and Dutton Gregory are an incredibly generous partner to the law school to offer the law clinic. But really, I suppose as a university, you have two strands, which is the first is thinking about your students in a more selfish way. You're thinking you want to give your students the best experience possible. At Solent, we have this mantra of work ready, world ready, future ready, delivering authentic learning, making sure your students are professionally well-rounded. The best way you can do that from a law program perspective is creating a law clinic. They're doing 7/10 of the job, 8/10 of the job of a solicitor. Then of course there's the wider community piece, as John doubtlessly will talk about in more detail. Legal aid cuts, access to family law, the amount of renting that's going through the roof. So I should say our two law clinics are family law and housing. Right. So really pressing issues in our community, and a university has a responsibility to be a hub in a community and offer its expertise out, whether that's through our wonderful students like Sophia and Renata, and of course then our wonderful industry partners as well. So it was the two strands, delivering a great experience for your students and then also the community aspect as well.
Great. And the law clinic is still in its infancy.
It is.
And could you sort of tell us about when it was launched?
Yeah, so as John said, it was over a coffee, best cappuccino I ever bought, yes. Last summer, and it actually rolled around very fast. I think it was 8-9 months, and we had it up and running. So February it started, and I mean just in our first month, one, to show the wonderful work these guys have done, but also the real community need. The students had dealt with 100 inquiries at that point in just the first few months of being open. 3 months, yeah, sorry, 3 months.
Within 3 months we'd seen over 100 different people. So yeah, it just shows it's such, as Brad was saying, it's such an area in demand.
It is absolutely. And coming back to you, Brad, sort of you talked about there's lots of different areas, you know, there were did you do much consultation within the community, or was there something that you had seen through the work that you were doing that this need was identified?
Yeah, you see it in the news all the time, the cuts, but we work a lot as well with some wonderful citizens advice bureaus like Gosport and Fareham and Southampton and so on, and you see the issues that are coming through a lot. As John says, you know, most people have families, and the legal aid cuts mean that there are people who are trying to get visitation rights to their children. There are people who are uncertain about what's going to happen when a 10-15 year marriage ends, what happens with pensions, what happens with assets I haven't been working, and there's just not the funding to go and get this legal advice. We're a two-university city, there's a lot of renting. Southampton, I believe now, is majoritarily leasehold now, renting arrangements. So there's a huge need for it, and there just isn't the money or the access. So, and again, you know, law firms like Dutton Gregory know full well the picture out there. I think anywhere you read, you see that it's really tough for people to get legal advice. And you imagine that situation of, I can't afford to understand my legal entitlements for a certain area. It just shouldn't happen. And
yes, great. So coming back to you then, John, in terms of your sort of partnership with Southampton Solent, started over a coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it started 20 years ago when I started as an undergrad myself in my degree.
Were you drinking a lot of coffee then?
Coffee, Red Bull, Jägermeister, whatever I could get.
So let's talk a little bit about your sort of journey. So you were a student at Southampton Solent.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, and you studied law.
I did, yeah. Before the Spark building came along, actually. So it's changed a lot.
Changed a lot since then. So in terms of, let's just talk a little bit about your experience, what that was like for you. I mean, that's, you know, going back 17 years or so now, but...
I mean, it's a very different university. I think the year that I graduated with 2008 was the first year the university was awarding their own degrees in law. Yes. Before then, it was through a partner university. And we were on a campus on Guildhall Square, so it was before the lessons were in the main campus like they are now. But Solent's always had a really good, I think, even when I was there, reputation in thinking, we don't just want to give you great academic skills, we want to give you a black book of connections and make you really employable.
Yes.
And actually make you a graduate that an employer will go, you've got something that stands you above and beyond other people that are applying for this position because you've got experience in client care, you've dealt with document drafting, and you've done a lot of the job that a lawyer would be wanted to do.
Indeed. So then in terms of the partnership with Southampton Solent to have this law clinic, how much of that did you have to sort of talk to your partners about, or the law firm? How did you have to persuade them? What was it in for them?
I'm really, really lucky. I mean, I'm one of the 12 partners in the firm. And actually, although we started as a firm in Winchester, we're now a national firm across the country, but actually our heart started in Hampshire. And I think as a firm, we're very keen on thinking, what can we do to give back? So the partners are very good, and they put a lot of trust in me, and have said, if it's important to you, it's important to us as a business. So go out there, and from our side, it also allows us to talent spot the best and the brightest, so we can see those that we think actually we want you to come and work for us in years to come, and before other firms see them, we can snap them up early.
Excellent, that's the way to be. You're looking for your solicitors of the future. So
absolutely, yeah.
Thinking in with that, this collaboration would really work from that point of view.
And we learn so much from the university as well. I mean, I recall there was a time that the partners were talking around about how we can make Dutton Gregory a place that the best lawyers want to come to. And I said, well, why don't we go and ask them? So the university were really kind and let me run a workshop with the students, and it was asking them what they want from a future employer around remote working, hours, what facilities they would want an office to have, and then we've then fed it back into the business. And so it's meant that we can also evolve our business to be somewhere that people want to come and work, and also talking to the students now about what they think law is going to look like. Absolutely. How we can use things like AI and technology, because they are the ones that are on the forefront of it.
Brilliant, and you're doing an excellent job being an alumni as well, and giving back to the university, so that's great. And how different is it from your time to now, would you say, the law students? I mean, I will obviously come to the students themselves in a moment, but what changes have you seen?
Definitely a lot more tech savvy.
Yes.
I think that there are a lot more conscious things like ChatGPT and using that, and obviously that comes with a caveat of you still need the human element to check those things over.
Yes.
But also things like using digital marketing and building your own personal brand, things like social media.
Yes.
I mean, when I started in as a graduate in 2008, the idea of having a LinkedIn profile probably wasn't particularly important, whereas now I think you have to have a digital footprint as a lawyer. And I often think that actually when you're looking for a law job and you sit in front of somebody, they will probably already have looked you up online. They will already know what's important to you, what kind of person you are.
Yes, of course, yes. So bringing in the students then. So Sophia, you're just sort of coming on to start the law degree, but you're still getting some experience in the law clinic.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I approached Brad and he allowed me to kind of sit in, and then I've from there just developed my passion surrounding law. And so yeah, I've been really lucky to have such a supportive team.
Yeah, brilliant. And, and that's going to really help you in terms of when you start your degree. Yes, excellent. And Renata, you're sort of going into your final year and getting this opportunity to really get that real world experience. At the end of the day, this is what you're offering with the law clinic. You're giving that real world learning, real world experience to our students. How has it been for you? What's your experience being part of the law clinic's been like?
I mean, it's been very insightful because as a law student, you hear many stories of, oh, this is how you deal with a client, this is what happened with my client, but you never actually get to experience it. Whilst now that I'm experiencing, I get to see, wow, like, now I relate to your story. So it's actually been really insightful, but it's actually helped me develop my skills as well. I mean, my confidence has improved massively. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for the law clinic. I wouldn't have the confidence to stand up and even help clients, speak to them or approach them. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Definitely my confidence, and just also when it comes to my drafting and even the way I just perceive things has changed. So it's been a really, really great opportunity, and it's really helped me develop. Right, great. And in terms of your sort of looking at, you know, you're going to your final year, what kind of specialism are you looking to go into? Are you looking to go into family law or housing law, because this is the experience you're getting currently?
After my job.
Definitely family. I've been really, really interested in family. I mean, the amount of knowledge I've gained in just these 5 months is incredible. The other day, for example, we attended a seminar where we had 2 district judges talk about how they would deal with 2 cases within family law, and I attended the same seminar last year, had no clue what anything was, and then this year I was actually following on along and I was forming my own opinions, and it's really, really incredible. That is definitely so important to give that experience to our students. So coming back to you then, John, and talking about sort of looking at the law clinic,
it's the type of legal services you're offering is both Brad and John. It's housing and family law. Are there lots of technicalities? And you'd think would somebody from the community say, "Oh, I don't know if I want to get advice. You've got students advising me. They're not actually qualified as yet." How do you sort of come around that?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a qualified lawyer in all of the appointments. So it's myself in the family ones,
Right.
my colleague Gina or one of her team, Amber or Bev from the housing team. So there's always a lawyer there.
Right.
But so that way we sort of do check the information. And if the students aren't sure, they can always come and ask us. But we want them to sort of lead. But actually, we do train them in advance. We talk them through the law, and not just the law, but also the process.
Yes.
Sometimes if you're going through a family breakdown, it's a really difficult time, and hopefully it's one of those things that people don't need to go through. But if you do, it's often the first time someone's gone through that, or if they've had an eviction notice, it might be the first time they've received that. So they don't even know where to turn or where to start.
Yes.
So actually coming in and speaking to one of the students, they'll be familiar with the process, they'll be familiar with the law. It just talks them through what to expect, what their options are, and hopefully they go away then with an informed decision.
Yes.
And then sometimes we do continue to work with them beyond that initial meeting as well. We don't just say come in, get some advice and go away. Sometimes we will say, okay, well, this is the form you need to do, we'll help you with that, we'll help you make an application or lodge a response, so we can assist as well within certain parameters with actually helping them with their case as well.
So there's a lot of follow-up. There's just not a one-off advice.
No, we do try and help them. But a lot of the time people go, thanks, I've got what I need. But
Yes.
sometimes they will say, oh, actually, yes, can I come back? And sometimes we've had a few people, we've been running since February, isn't it? But we've had people that have come back 2, 3, 4 months later and have said, oh, actually, I've followed your advice. And can you help me now with the next step?
Okay, excellent. And then coming back to you then, Brad, obviously you said it's been running since February, and you sort of mentioned earlier you've sort of seen up to around 100 clients?
Oh, it'll be
More
way
so?
more than that now.
More than
It was
that.
100, I think, at the end of March, wasn't it? So we've had,
Yeah.
sorry, no, March, February, May. End of May was
June,
100.
July,
Yeah.
It'll be more now. Yeah, but yeah, we've got a large volume of clients.
Large body of clients. And is it typically, I know it's housing and family, but is it any typically something that's more prevalent in the kind of advice they want, or is it something that dominates?
Well, it tends to be from the family side sitting in there, because John and the team at Dutton Gregory and the students obviously do the heavy lifting. I sit in there and bring the biscuits and things.
Good biscuits. See, there's a theme. There's a running theme here. Everything involves.
Biscuit and coffee.
You bring Brad, you bring biscuits. Biscuit Brad.
Yes.
But it is family law. It tends to be lots of child arrangement matters, lots of things of getting access to children. I'm worried, I've heard my ex-partner is going to take the children here, is going
Right.
to... And then a lot of the time, well, it comes to just doing those initial feeling out steps with, I'm thinking about a divorce, or I'm in the process of a divorce. What happens to the house? You know, if your life has been completely intermingled with another human being for 10 to 15 years, you don't have individual assets that much anymore. So they'll sit and they'll want a picture of what's it going to look like if this happens. And the
Right.
students do an absolutely phenomenal job going through. I mean, sometimes they'll sit there and go through dozens and dozens of pages of various information to say, well, here's the picture that you're looking at, here's what you're entitled to, child safety checklist. I mean, they really have done a phenomenal job, the students.
Right. So coming to the students then, how does it feel? You know, there's a lot of information, lots you need to process, and I don't know if there are any upsetting scenarios or situations that you may have to deal with. How do you then sort of take all that information and kind of then sort of process it and then help your client? What's that experience been like?
I think it's important to be able to give them a sort of rationalised perspective, because sometimes they come in, they're emotional,
Yes.
you know, they're overwhelmed, and it's important to just be a safe space for them,
Yes.
for them to open up and come in. And the difference that you see when they come in and they're stressed and they're worried, and then after they've had the advice from myself and Renata, they seem a lot more calm and confident about the situation, just knowing that there is someone there.
Yes. That's great. And Renata?
I definitely agree with Sophie, definitely seeing the difference when they leave. I mean, the amount of times we've had clients and we've walked them to the door and they said, you filled me with so much hope for my next steps. And it's an incredible feeling and it's very rewarding. And like Sophia said, it is important about giving them that rational decision, because some people would be emotional and will want to hear something they're set on, but at the end of the day we have to be honest, and it is important because, like John has said, they need to make a rational and informed decision.
Yes, of course.
And everyone's circumstances are different as
Of
well.
course.
That's the thing. I think people go, well, I'll speak to my friend who's been through a divorce or has been through this situation, and their friend will say, well, like, this happened to me. But everyone's circumstances are unique, and I think that's what the students do a fantastic job in doing, is they will say, okay, well, tell me about your situation, then I'll tell you what the law is, and then I will tell you how the law applies to your situation.
Yes.
And that's something I think you don't necessarily get through speaking to friends or Googling or going on any AI or internet online searches, because that will give you a bespoke
Yes.
answer rather than well, that won't give you a bespoke answer, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It won't give you the bespoke. It'd be a general answer.
Yeah, it'd be a general answer, but there might be little things that you don't think are necessarily important,
Yes.
but actually, that's what students do well, is that they will know what questions to ask to tease out those important pieces of information to give the accurate and custom advice.
Okay. And students, would you say that kind of, it's very exciting, and it kind of gives you that kind of feeling, oh, I'm almost there to be a lawyer or a solicitor, and what kind of, you talked about it's raised your confidence, but how does it feel? And John's already worried about his job, but how does it? What kind of reward or satisfaction does it give you when you've helped somebody?
I mean, I definitely go home at the end of the evening and I say I'm very proud of myself for what I've done, but not also just pride, but also like hope for that person as well, who I've seen and has told me their difficult situation, and now instead of sitting there being worried at home, they know what they need to get started once they get back.
Yes.
So definitely.
And how about you, Sophia?
It's definitely rewarding.
Yes.
It's definitely something that I strive to do, and just being able to carry that out so early on into my journey is absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. And so how much of your time does it take then, students? How is the clinic sort of, how it's run? How often do you meet? How often is it open to the public? And where is it? Is it at the university?
So our law clinic is based on our campus, our university's campus, and the way we do it is we either contact clients via text message or telephone, book them their appointment beforehand, and that is followed with a confirmation email letting them know the details, time, date and place where they'll have to show up. And we understand that some clients cannot make it in person, so we do offer over the phone or Teams appointments as well.
Brilliant.
And we book the appointments in advance, and then the clients have the opportunity to meet with one of our advisors, and at the end everyone will get their sort of like personalized letter of advice.
Brilliant. And are you the only two student advisors, or there's more?
There were more switches. We've got Renata and Sophia with us today, but we should give a shout out to Paris, Omnaya and Erica, who've graduated and are now doing other option modules. They've done a great job as well, and next week we've actually got another
6, I think. Yeah, we've got another 6 that are going in to start next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll spend a couple of weeks training them up, talking through the law, the process, and like client interview skills, and then we'll grow the team, I think, really, isn't it? So yes,
Get it as part of their curriculum, which is fantastic, so they can take it as their placement option in their final year. So they get to do their placement on campus, but dealing with real-world clients as well. So yeah, we've got some training to do next week, haven't we? Ready?
Yeah.
These guys also get to experience, and it's not only the client handling elements, it's also they get to supervise and train as well, because they can say, here's what I've experienced over the last 4 or 5 months, here's what to be ready for. As you said, all that kind of emotional element, dealing with the actual human being across the table, not just knowing the legal answer to something.
Yeah, and the client meeting, so it's every Tuesday and Thursday between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. So we kind of appreciate that some people need to come after work, so it's Tuesday and Thursday 3 till 7 on the campus, and then effectively people can go online through the Solent University website, just search for Solent Law Clinic or Southampton Solent Law Clinic, and then they basically fill in a form online, and then we get in touch with them and then book an appointment around their availability.
Great. So is that how the law clinic is promoted? Is there any other promotional that you're doing to kind of get this community to the Solent website? What else is being done in terms to promote this wonderful resource?
Thank you.
Yeah, so lots of lovely radio stations like this one, lots of community hubs have helped us market it. The university has some marketing materials as well, some banners and things, particularly around campus. As John says, it is very straightforward. If anyone wanted to get in touch, it is just Southampton Solent Law Clinic. The online form is very brief. We do also have an email address, sslc@solent.ac.uk. So that is Southampton Solent Law Clinic is in SSLC. But yeah, there's some promotion around Dutton Gregory as well. I think you've got a new marketing guru, don't you, who is very big on the law clinic and the pro bono elements.
Yeah, we've got John, Leone and Courtney who've just joined us in the marketing team. Hopefully they're listening, and I'm not going to get a text later on saying you're rubbish.
I'm sure not.
Yeah, they but I mean, a lot of it is again just done on word of mouth, and it's actually been really nice. We do try and ask people how did you come across us, and the CAB have been very good at directing people to us as well. But sometimes it is just a case of, I've heard this, or I've been told it by a friend, and my friend came to see you, and actually they've told me that I might benefit as well. So we do rely on word of mouth as well. So we would say, if anyone out there is listening and thinks, it might help me, or I know a friend that it might help, then get them to get in touch. We're not limited, although it's for the local community. We will help anyone that needs it.
Absolutely. I know we touched upon challenges and barriers faced by communities when they're trying to access legal services. Anything in particular, the students, if you've come across anything in particular that the community members who've come to you for advice and support have said, I could never get that if I wanted to find that out for myself? Or have they managed, said anything about any challenges and barriers they face?
I mean, I would definitely say awareness. A lot of people are not aware that there are services like this out there where they can go and turn for actually to get some legal advice in a moment that they struggle. So awareness has been one of the biggest ones. Cost is often mentioned as well. People often come in saying, thank you so much. I would have not been able to get an initial appointment anywhere else, really.
Yes, of course, yeah. So that's why then, John, legal advice is so expensive. Why
I'm going to get all political now. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment Offenders Act. It basically overnight decimated the number of people that were eligible for legal aid. It built in a requirement that in order to get legal aid, there had to be evidence of domestic abuse or child abuse. So it was no longer assessed based on your financial circumstances. I think it was a government way of saving money. But actually what it did is it meant overnight all these people that would have got legal advice were no longer eligible. And what it's then done in turn is it's meant there are lots of people that no longer can afford solicitors that are now going to court but representing themselves.
Right.
And so if you imagine there are a couple that are going through a difficult breakup, they would have previously both got solicitors who would have given them some advice and trying to hopefully focus on finding a resolution. What they'll now do is they may find the first time they see each other after a bitter breakup, maybe when they get to the court door, and in which case they're suddenly having an argument in front of a judge. So things that would take 20 minutes with lawyers are now going to take a lot longer. So it's also in turn, rather than saving money, it's just burdened the court systems even more, and it's meant that there are now massive delays in court.
Of course, yeah. And then just sort of following on from that, because you're offering this service in the community is free, linking in with, an academic institution and a practicing law firm, students, now, would the next step, Brad, would be where, John, you just mentioned the community members having to represent themselves because they can't afford a solicitor. Would the next step be perhaps giving students that extra work experience, getting into court and representing?
To go and represent litigants?
Yeah.
Yes, so we have to be careful when you're
Of
running
course.
a law clinic, the Legal Services Acts and so on, what they define as a legal service. First, once you step into the realm of now I'm actually representing somebody,
Right.
all kinds of ethical liability,
Sure.
insurance type issues. There is the aspiration that the law clinic, very much as John said, it's in its inception stage, it's its pilot year as we called it. There is definitely the aspiration for us to grow, not just into different areas, but also what the students can actually do.
Yes.
John and Dutton Gregory, again, are very good at, they make sure they take the students along to court, they let them see how it works, interviewing clients and so on. But there is definitely the aspiration, and from the uni side as well, that they want this to grow, and again, something for the students and then the community, is because we would much rather have somebody who is trained to go and represent someone than
Of course.
someone facing it. Again, as John said, the prospect in this kind of situation of then you're now going to face a judge and
Yes.
who's going to ask you legal questions, and whilst you're going through this emotionally traumatic episode in your life as well. So yes, definitely.
It's also difficult if a couple have been through like an abusive relationship as well.
Yeah.
They're then effectively being forced to, you might have an abuser cross-examining their victim in
Yes.
court, which is wholly inappropriate.
Yes.
But yeah, the other difficulty we face is that you have to have rights of audience. So in order to advocate and put a case forward in front of a judge, you have to have certain rights, which you only get when you're sort of qualified. You can go into things like Mackenzie Friends and there are support agencies, but sometimes what we'll do with the people that have come into the clinic is they've said, oh, well, I can't afford a lawyer, I have to go to court and do this myself, but we'll help them put together bullet points that are relevant, what the law says, and effectively help them construct their case.
Yes.
So then we can help them, and then when they get to court, they've almost got a script or a bullet point list of things that they need to tell the judge. So it helps them hopefully focus and raise the relevant points when they're in front of the judge.
Absolutely. It's all about preparation, preparing your clients, supporting them that way, not necessarily representing them.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love
yes.
love to say, absolutely, we'll go into court and help everybody. But the difficulty is that it's not always a possibility either, because we haven't got the necessary permissions or rights from the regulatory bodies.
Of course, yes. That's something missing there. There's the gap to be plugged, definitely. Okay, then. So, in terms of, it's great you've had over 100 clients, which is brilliant. And I can imagine, Tuesdays and Thursdays when the law clinic happens at Southampton Solent University. So you must be very, very busy. So typically, in those 3 hours, how many how many clients would you come across? I mean, are there 2 advisors on present at all times, or is it sort of, how is it worked out? Just somebody's listening thinking, I want to make an appointment. Will I get in? Is it really busy?
Sophia or Renata, you can take that. Yeah, you can talk about what a day looks like.
Yeah.
Would you like to take over?
Okay. So we normally see 2 or 3 back to back, but we have had a little bit of a telling off from Jonathan.
Harsh taskmaster. It's making sure you've got the time to do the admin, because we could easily fill, in the 4 hours, we could easily see a client at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and back to back. One, because you're sort of taking on other people's issues and stresses sometimes, it can be emotionally draining, and it can be hard to focus from one to the other. And B, also, so these guys are great at being really committed, but they need to have time to do the emails to follow up.
Sure.
So it's making sure you've got the time to do stuff beyond the meeting. So we have sort of said, actually, try and do a couple each time, and then you've got time to do the care afterwards. But
Indeed.
we could easily fill 4 hours back to back.
You can. And typically, how long will you say a appointment slot is?
Typically, it'll be an hour, and in that hour, it'll either be myself or Sophia leading the appointment, and in the meantime, the other advisor will be getting on with some admin and just making sure we're up to date with everything.
Okay, great. So, definitely. Okay, thank you. Right, coming to you then, Brad. Let's talk a little bit about law as a subject and talk about, in terms of the course at Southampton Solent. So, it's a 3-year LLB?
Correct, or 4 if you wanted to do a placement year in between your second year and final year,
Okay, and in terms of the entry requirements, a lot of people may still think, A-levels is the only route into university. What sort of entry requirements would students or prospective students looking to study law, what type of qualifications do you accept?
So we do have a 104 UCAS tariff baseline minimum requirement, but our admissions team at the union, we always say, are very good. People come to us with BTECs and all kinds of other things. There is always an admission discretion.
Yes.
I've had a student actually who is a mature student, went out of education, had a child, has come back now, doesn't necessarily have the full academic qualifications, was thinking about a level 3 access to law course.
Right.
But you always have the discretion to sit and have a chat with that person, get them to do a little bit of written work, and then you can say, academic discretion, I'm happy for this person to proceed straight into level 4. So I always say, same thing at open days, I'd say to anybody listening who's thinking about it, don't ever look at what is said online and think, that's it, that's a barrier, I can't get into it. No, contact admissions, contact myself. There's always discussions to be had.
Yes, brilliant, thank you. And of course, coming back to the students then, would you sort of, from your experience, I know Renata, you're sort of going into your final year, and Sophia, from your experience, can you talk us through what is so important when you're looking at university courses? What should really prospective students should be looking at when they're making their application?
I would definitely suggest think about the way you best learn, and then look at the way the university teaches. If it accommodates the way you learn, then that is a place you absolutely want to be, because that's where you will strive. Because I was looking at other universities, and actually when I was looking at the way they teach and the course was presented, I was kind of lost and thinking, no, I would not enjoy being there because of the way the courses are being done. But I'm more of a hands-on sort of person who likes to learn that way, whilst I thought other universities were not really offering that. So definitely think about the way you best learn and look at how the university approaches the way they teach.
Brilliant. And how about you, Sophia?
Mine's similar to Renata. I definitely like the way Solent teaches. They're more practical based. They accommodate different ways of learning, and I think that's so important, is recognising everyone's individual strengths
Yes.
and really nurturing that. And I feel like Brad and my business tutors, they've all done that with me, because I got into university on work experience. I owned my own business. I got out of school with 2 GCSEs, and I feel like Solent really nurtured me, and now I am where I am now.
Fantastic. That's a great journey.
Yeah.
What was your business?
Property management.
Oh, and are you interested in property law then?
I like commercial property, and I also like family.
Family. Oh, so
Yeah.
you've got a lot of choice there.
Yes.
Indeed. Brilliant. Okay, so there you go. 2 solicitors in the making already, John.
They've both been brilliant, and as Renata was saying, just seeing the confidence in just the first year, they've gone from being nervous about asking clients and leading interviews to now actually I do very little. I probably bring them tea and biscuits and that's it.
Oh, brilliant.
But yeah, they've learnt the law, they've learnt how to deal with people and empathise with them in difficult situations as well, and they're both going to be phenomenal lawyers, I've got no doubt.
Fantastic. So just coming back to the students again, Renata, what would you say has been the most enjoyable aspect of your course and your university experience at Solent so far?
I would say, I'm being biased here, but definitely the law clinic. I don't think I would have gone this
Correct
opportunity.
answer, the money will clear tomorrow.
I definitely don't think I would have been able to get this opportunity in many other places, so I'm really, really grateful for that. It's definitely accommodating the way I like to learn best, and I'd say it's not just the law clinic, but also the way I've been taught. Like, everything is very practical, even your lectures and your seminars. It's not just sort of like having a lecturer talk at you for an hour. You'll always be finding yourself doing different things.
Okay, and is Brad a good lecturer?
100%.
Answer like your grades depend on that.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, Sophia, you've done, was it business management marketing, did you say?
And law.
And law,
Yeah.
like management law, and now you're sort of moving on to
Yeah, just
the
law.
LLB degree, yeah. So what has that foundation year been like for you?
It's been amazing. It's definitely put things in perspective for me,
Yeah.
in terms, because obviously I own my own business beforehand.
Yes.
Learning business within a uni, they're 2 very different things, and it definitely made me realise my passion for law.
Yes.
It made me realise that you can really help people with that, and that is something that I really wanted to do. So yeah, it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Right, so we're coming to, oh God, time flies when you're having fun. We only have about 4 minutes. So just quickly then, I want to bring everybody in. So what sort of advice would you give if somebody was sort of unsure, unclear about their career pathway? Law could be a pathway too, but how would you advise them to... I'm going to go to you first, John, because, you've gone through the whole journey, the whole sort of system.
Yeah, I mean, I love what I do for a job. It is hard. Like I said earlier, you see the very best and the very worst, and you see people at their highs and their lows, but it does really make a difference. And I think for me, I kind of always knew that I wanted to do law when I started university. When I was 15, 16, I wanted to be a chef. I tried it, didn't like it, and it was a complete career change. But I think I would say that law is a great degree to do for a variety of skills in communication and research. And there are a lot of people that do law degrees and then don't necessarily go into law
Sure.
jobs.
Yes.
But I would say certainly my career advice is just try everything and just give it your all and enjoy what you do. But you need to find something that you enjoy doing at the end of the day.
Brilliant. And Renata?
I would say don't let yourself be discouraged by your circumstances. Definitely have a chat, reach out, talk to the people around you. Try and maybe even, I mean, it is difficult at the moment, but reaching out for maybe some work experience if you're unsure. See what a day in the life looks like, and then if you can imagine yourself doing that for the long term. So,
Brilliant. And Brad?
I would say that law is incredibly portably employable. Of course, you'll be a barrister or a solicitor, but the skills that you learn are desirable to every industry. Every industry has to come to heel to the law. So the post-nominals of LLB honours are an incredibly employable brand to have after your name.
Great. And finally, Sophia?
Everybody else said.
Is it how would you, because you are quite, you're probably quite the one most qualified perhaps to answer this question. Somebody's
Yeah.
not sure about what they want to do.
I would say
How would you kind of
definitely don't let the fear get in the way. I had moments, which I spoke to Brad and John about, where I was unsure if I could do it because I haven't come from the traditional background.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it was a lot of self-doubt. And I just think, don't let that get in the way, because if you want it enough, you'll do it.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And finally, Brad, where can people get further information about the Law Clinic and booking appointments?
Law Clinic, if you just want to Google, other search engines are available. Southampton Solent Law Clinic, you'll see you've got a link to fill out a form, or email us again, sslc@solent.ac.uk.
Brilliant. And for courses at Southampton Solent and for applying, www.solent.ac.uk. And we do have an open day coming up, which is 16th of August. It is around clearing, but everybody's welcome.
Of course.
And to book on an open day, it's solent.ac.uk /open days. So finally, now I would like to thank my guests, John,
Thank you for
Brad,
having us.
Thank you.
Renata and Sophia this afternoon for coming in and taking time out of your busy schedule. And hope our listeners found the discussion and information insightful and useful. And if you are in need of a legal advice on family and housing matters, do book an appointment with the award-winning Southampton Law Clinic. And next up is The Drive Time with Nikki, so please stay tuned to Unity 101 Community Radio. Good afternoon.
Community Hour is aired live daily from Monday to Friday, always from 3 to 4 p.m. Community Hour is a flexible program, accommodating all sorts of discussions, debates, awareness about subjects and issues that affect and benefits the local community. Hosted by our volunteers, members of the public, and people from private and public voluntary sector organizations. Community Hour is not driven by party politics or religious objectives or any other propaganda, but to provide, share information and give advice, signpost listeners to professionals who would offer detailed service on a one-to-one basis. This is Unity 101 Community Radio on 101.1 FM and online www.unity101.org. Good afternoon.
The Community Hour. This is Unity 101.
दीवानी मैं हूँ जिसकी I'm a bad girl, I like whiskey. पिला दे दीवानी मैं हूँ जिसकी I'm a bad girl, I like whiskey. जब मुझको चढ़ जाती तो नशे में हो जाती मैं